Welcome back to the Business Book Challenge with the Coaching Network. I am Maria Medina, your business and networking coach, and today we're going to be reviewing Stop and Shift by Karen Allen. I'm actually going to be keeping this review quite short because this book is very simple, and I would actually encourage you to buy it and keep it side by side or get it as an audiobook. It's a reminder of how to shift your mindset, how to bring that awareness so that you can deal with procrastination, negative self-talk, conflict resolution. There's so many ways that you can use this book to help you in your everyday life, whether it's for business or for your personal life. And they go through examples. Karen's goes through some examples that are able to help you. And my guest that's coming up next, we actually speak about certain techniques that you can use. Like in the book, they talk about grabbing the remote, changing the channel. When you're thinking about something that you don't want to be thinking about, make yourself aware in switching that mindset. We also talk about examples on how to apply this on real life and what we've personally experienced ourselves, because this book actually spoke a lot to me. I deal with a lot of thoughts throughout the day as I'm running my business, as I'm dealing in my everyday life. And what I often don't do is stop. I don't take that time to stop, shift my mindset before I carry on. Sometimes I take thoughts a little bit further than they should be, and they're not the right thoughts for me to be thinking. They're not factual. They're not the truth. They're these things that I'm feeding myself, and I continue to do that. So was actually a great book for me to read and a great reminder of how to stop, be mindful, be aware, and change the thoughts that you're thinking to be a little bit more factual, but also constructive. Is this thought helping me in what I'm trying to achieve? And some of the examples that she comes up with and she shares are things that happen in everyday life. You're doing a presentation, you're going into a presentation where you're presenting something to your colleagues, to your bosses, and you feel unsure. You get a little bit of that imposter syndrome and you forget about what got you there, the skills that you have, the knowledge that you have, and you're just intimidated by the situation, and those thoughts take over. Where instead, if you think about yourself, think about the skills and what you're bringing to this presentation, what value you're able to give these people when you're showing them what you're about to present to them. That's a more empowering thought. I know how to present this. I believe in this. So if you're doing things like that at work and you're overthinking on projects and you're overthinking in how to speak with the higher ups, or maybe you're some colleagues that you believe have more experience than you, think back on something that is a little bit more constructive. Maybe they are more experienced than you. Could you make this a learning situation? That's what the book talks about. Creating those situations where something is actually going to help you more than the negative thoughts that you're experiencing. So the concept of stop and shift seems very simple, but in actuality, it does require a lot of practice. And we went through Atomic Habits in this business book challenge before, where we were talking about how to create habits that work for us. In this book, some of those habits are, what am I thinking? Being aware of the thoughts that you're having. And something that has helped me is having a thought log. And it can be either a constructive, negative, some sort of thought log where you write down these thoughts that you're like, wait a minute, is this actually helping me and achieve what I want to achieve? Is this stopping me? Let's talk about the fact that some of us procrastinate a lot when we have a lot on our to-do list, right? We have a long to-do list. We don't know where to start. And then we get stuck in that analysis paralysis where we're going through the list. We don't know where to start, so we might as well not start at all. And we busy ourselves. We put ourselves through busy work, like answering emails, texting people back, following up with that person we haven't spoke to in a month, right? Whereas instead, if we thought, yes, I have a long to-do list, but what is going to help me the most now? Let me prioritize. Let me break it down and actually tackle it. This is going to make me feel better in the long run. Because if I don't do my to-do list today, it's going to be there tomorrow. And I'm going to be repeating the cycle of negativity over and over again because I'm going to be feeding into, I'm not good for anything. I can't get anything done. Whereas if instead I say it is overwhelming, I acknowledge that. I understand that this to-do list is overwhelming. What can I do to make it not as overwhelming? Let me break it down. I speak with my clients about this all the time when they have to-do lists or they have tasks that are worrying them on a daily basis. And you prioritize. You look at opportunities to say, what is going to be more beneficial for me right now? And if you're one of my clients, you'll know that I always tell you to eat that frog. It's another book that I'll be going through, which is one of my top 5 books for sure that I would recommend to my clients or my prospects or anybody listening. It's about grabbing those intimidating tasks and breaking them down and getting them done first. Because you'll notice that there's these tasks that are weighing you down and they're stopping you from doing other things. But acknowledging that you might be intimidated or you think they're too big then allows you to think through solutions rather than just getting stuck on that mentality where you're like, I can't do this. I'm not able to do this. I don't have the time. So you sit down, you look at what you're trying to achieve, and then you find the best way forward. And my guest and I actually talk about this. When you're unable to do that, ask for help. Surround yourself with people that you can ask questions of. And some of these people are those growth mentality people that we've spoken about before. How can they help me? How can my colleagues? Hey, I'm a little bit overwhelmed. Do you know where I should start? What's a priority? Ask your boss. Ask a colleague. And if you're a small business owner, maybe you need a coach to help you prioritize. Maybe you need a fellow business owner to communicate with, those people that you surround yourself with that are there to ultimately help you. And you can look at that list and you can say, hey, I'm doing these 5 things. I'm not sure where to start. And they might ask questions like, why are you doing each of these things and what's going to benefit you the most? Also, a lot of the time, what's going to take you the most time? Let's break that down. Let's make it more manageable. So one of those things was that presentation and that intimidating to-do list. But negative thoughts, these self-talks thinking, it usually happens as well when we're having conflict with people. One of the examples that the book uses is how we're having a conversation with our partner and then it turns into an argument and we automatically think, oh, they never listened to me. And instead of being stuck on that, they never listen to me, it doesn't matter what I say, they shift. They realize, is that true? It's not. They do listen to me, but maybe I'm not saying it in a right way. Maybe I'm not saying it in the way that they're able to understand. What other way can I say this? And a lot of the time I'll find myself, and I know that other people do this, saying, did you understand that? Do you need me to clarify? Did I express that in the right way for you to understand? Not putting the blame on the other person, because it's okay to not understand, but saying more, how can I communicate with you better so that you understand where I'm coming from? And that shift in mindset allows for growth. It allows for, I'm going to find a better way to communicate with you so that next time this happens, I'm not automatically going to go to that negative thought. I'm going to go to the thought of, I didn't communicate this properly. What can I do next? I'm going to an open thought, not they don't listen to me. I didn't communicate properly. What can I change? They didn't hear or they didn't understand. What can I change? It's those thoughts that allow you to take further action. That's what we want to stop and shift into. We want to stop those thoughts that keep you static, that don't allow you to continue in a proactive and a productive way. They're stopping you from doing that. So we want to stop those and shift them into something that allows for action, into something that allows for additional thought, analysis, into things that are actually going to be useful for us. Now, it's easier said than done, and I love this book because it actually speaks to me. And I always say that to myself. I catch myself sometimes, but sometimes I don't catch myself fast enough. And I go with a thought that isn't actual fact. So what can you do to help you be a little bit more mindful? And one of the techniques that my speaker will bring up is simply mindfulness through breathing. So one of those is breathing, that breathing technique, which you take a pause before you take a decision. Some of the things that we experience a lot of the time when we are in a stressful work environment is that we think people need an answer straight away, and we jump and we react. So instead of reacting, what we're trying to encourage you to do here is be a little bit more proactive, plan ahead, but then also if you do have to be reactive, take your time. It doesn't have to be answered right now. And if it does, choose your words wisely and be prepared for when you have to shift the action in the future, not because you're wrong, but because maybe you were forced to make a decision at that point in time with certain information. And in a day, a week, a month, you might have different information that changes that decision. So that stop and shift mentality really helps all aspects, not just what's going on in your head, but it allows you to analyze what you're thinking and what's going on in your body. Some of the things that you want to be looking out for are those thoughts that stop. They're singular and they don't allow you to move forward, or they're just in that same area. I'm not good enough. I can't do this, but I can't do anything about it. Or if I'm not good enough, what can I do? Can I make myself better? Is that actually true? Then what do I need to work in to move forward? Looking at what you're thinking and what you're trying to achieve and merging them together is what's going to help you to stop and shift. You're trying to accomplish something, but hey, you're stuck in this situation because you're thinking, I don't have the skills, I'm not good enough, I didn't communicate properly, I'm overwhelmed, I'm never going to get this done, there's not enough time in the day for me to do these things. Look at those thoughts, write them down on your log, and look at, once you write them down or say them out loud, and that's why I always like to bring in somebody else, tell somebody else that. Sometimes when I say things out loud, they sound way more ridiculous than they do in my head. And the other one is, would you say that to a friend? What if a friend was having these negative thoughts that you have in your head? What would you say to them? Take yourself outside of your head and bring in a different perspective to what you're thinking. Practicing mindfulness is highly encouraged, even though this stop and shift technique isn't exactly that. It is more about that awareness, but mindfulness will help you get that awareness. Identifying those thoughts. When you think something is negative, write it down so that next time when it comes up, when it crops up, it's something that you recognize and you can shift straight away. We've learned a little bit about how to stop and shift our mindset so that we can get things done. I wanted to go ahead and introduce my next guest, which is Amanda McKinlay. She is in Scotland, so thank you so much for joining us today. She's with the Butterfly Room. Amanda, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
So hi, so as you say, I'm with the Butterfly Room. The Butterfly Room is my creative wellbeing space. I'm part of a creative abundance hub in Paisley in Scotland. And I set the Butterfly Room up through my own health journey. Things like mindfulness, mindset work, all these things helped me on my following my diagnosis with fibromyalgia back 15 years ago now. And then learning what worked for me, I then became passionate about making that affordable for other people. And that's how the Butterfly Room emerged.
I always love people's stories when it's from personal experience that they come up with this business, because it usually helps them relate better to the people that they're helping. So I really enjoy that.
Absolutely. And I know we're kind of going to dive into talking about the book as well, but I think and I know when it comes to these sort of books, everyone's got a story. What it was like the level of the story sometimes, as you say, the inspiration of someone who can have that type of experience happen, but choose to, as the title says, stop and shift and do something positive with it.
So let's get right into it. Part of it that you said, a lot of people have these stories, they're going through things, but it's having that strength to really, or self-awareness and mindfulness to stop and shift. So what techniques can someone practice right now to help them identify some of those situations that they've gotten themselves in, or those negative thoughts that they're going through?
For me, the most important thing I think to remember with your thoughts are they're not facts. Thoughts are not always facts. So it's like when you're having that negative thought, check in with yourself. For example, I was putting something together the other day, and I was kind of referring to myself, promoting yourself, putting your good stuff in there, and I was like that. So it's like you're doing the whole award-winning, certificated, all of which was factually true. But of course, voice in the head went, oh, is that too much? Then I had to do no, do you know what? Stop, shift. And my friend actually helped me with it. It was like, no, it's not too much because it's true. So I had that thought, but the facts were there to support it. But sometimes you'll have the thought, and then that's when you do, right, are the facts there for that? Then what do we do with that? But no, if it's just like your inner critic telling you that, then it's like, no, that's when the shift comes in.
My wife actually has a post on a wall that says, don't believe everything you think.
Absolutely.
And it's so hard because we are our worst critics.
There is so much of you. Be confident, but don't be too big for your boots. You build yourself up, but don't overdo it. There's
a balance. There's a delicate balance. You don't want to build that.
But that's the balance tends to be other people who are intimidated by your growth, want to pull you back. And that, I think sometimes, especially with business coaching and advancement, you can kind of get pulled back by what other people are feeding into your thoughts rather than your own.
That is one of the questions that I ask my clients a lot. Is that true? They'll state a fact, they'll say something, and I'll say, is that true? Or I'll ask them, elaborate on that for me for a little bit. And as soon as they start explaining it, they quickly realize, actually, that's not true. As you said, that's not factual. That's not facts. That's not the truth. The truth actually is. And that's when they come to that moment of realization. But it takes me as a trigger to help them do that. So let's go back to the state of being mindful enough to recognize those thoughts. And people think that mindfulness takes a lot of time. In reality, it may or it may not. It depends on who you are, right? What kind of techniques can people start applying today to really practice mindfulness that isn't as time consuming as they would think?
I'm going to say, just breathe. If this is busy, just, well, it's a phrase in the UK, I don't know exactly, take a deep breath and count to 10. That kind of stop, breathe, give yourself that opportunity to check in before you react. But it can be as simple as that. It's just that mindfulness is just being aware. So it's like, if you have a thought, be aware of the thought. When I was learning mindfulness as a patient, it was at a place up in Glasgow, a beautiful integrative care hospital, and the place was right next to a train station. And one of the doctors that was doing the course, she said, your mind's a lot like the train platform, and your thoughts are the train's coming in. And it's like, is that train going where you want or you need to go in that moment? So it's just, that's where the mindfulness comes in. It's okay, you're not pretending the thought's not there. You're acknowledging it, you're assessing it. Is it going where I want to go? Is it going where I need to go just now? If it's not, work on letting that train pass and waiting for the one you do want.
I love that analogy, that visualization. I love that because it is. The thoughts come into your mind and it's up to you. It's a choice on what train you choose to get on and what train you choose to follow that thought on. So it's acknowledging, hey, this thought came into my head. Is this somewhere where I want to go, where I want to explore? Yes, let's go. No, this isn't something that's going to be valuable to me. Let's just let it pass and wait for the next train.
I've kind of shared that with clients and with groups going forward because it was so impactful for me. It's like, no, actually, you don't have to get on the hamster wheel using another. There's so many of these analogies for the mind, the thoughts go, but no, the train one's always one that I've found really helpful.
And I think applying that sort of visualization helps because when you're stuck in your thoughts, you're really stuck in that analytical part and you're overthinking, something visual that you can say, that's a train. I see the train, I'm going to let it pass. Or that's the hamster wheel. Am I choosing to get on it and work with it? No.
Well, the other one that was in the book that I loved was when she spoke about something in your head and it's not what you want there. Change the channel. You grab the TV remote and change the channel. I loved that as well because it's something that everyone can get behind. It's something that everyone has a concept of. Don't like that. So if you don't like the program you're watching, change the channel.
And I often find that associating physical movements and it helps. So we grab the remote, change the channel next. And I personally like to think of it as a piece of paper and that somebody's writing on it. And I grab it. And if it doesn't suit me, I crumple it and I throw it away.
I think it's just anything that your brain has a knowledge of actually happening. Your subconscious can then go, oh, we know what to do with that. So we know what it's like to, as you say, crumple up the paper, or to let the train go past, or to switch the channel on the TV. It's things that it helps with the understanding. It helps simplify it.
And as with anything, practice.
In fact, that was what one of the little prompts you'd sent me. You'd said, what can people do to make the shift more easy? And I just went, repetition. It's not going to be easy the first time you do it. Anything that's worth doing tends not to be easy right away.
And that doesn't mean the more you practice, the better you're going to get at it, or you're going to get perfect. Just prepare for failure. Sometimes you're not going to catch yourself and you're going to get on the wrong train.
Well, as I said, I mean, mindset work is something I do with clients. But I still had to catch myself the other day when I had that moment of, oh, is that too much? It's an ongoing, all of this is a work in progress. Anyone that claims to have it completely sorted and never have a rocky moment, I would question that.
100%. I was talking to my wife the other day, and we were saying how if we go to somewhere and it's all 5-star reviews, it's a little bit suspicious. But if it's a 4.8 or a 4.9, then hey, they made mistakes. But it's more believable.
Definitely.
And that actually takes me into my next question, which you brought in. You said I was dealing with this. I was putting all my accomplishments, and I was thinking it was too much. I caught myself, but I still couldn't figure it out. So I brought in my friend. So when people are going through this self-talk, these negative thoughts, and they're having a hard time getting out of them, what are some things that they can do? Like you say, you bring in a friend. What else can they do to help them get out of that?
Depends. I would say bring in the right friend. You don't necessarily want the friend who's going to tell you what you want to hear. You want the friend that will tell you what you need to hear in that moment. You want someone who's going to not challenge you on it, but at least give you the more constructive backup than just telling you, as I say, what you want to hear. Maybe soften it. Sometimes you need that. I don't like the tough love thing, but sometimes you just need that bit of authenticity, that bit of honesty.
I find that if myself as a coach, if I'm not making my clients uncomfortable every now and then, I'm not doing my job.
But there's even things of just connecting with someone. There are great coaches out there. There's so many self-help, motivational. You're talking about a book. There are so many different books out there with the tools in it. So if you don't have a physical person to connect with, look at what's available on your social media. Look at what's available on YouTube. Look at the motivational and the inspirational and the educational content that you can connect with, and allow that to be your kind of help you build your roadmap.
Like you said, we just actually went through another book, which was called Mindset. And they were talking about, don't surround yourself with the yay sayers. You want to surround yourself with the people that are actually going to provide with you some constructive criticism. Where is this person coming from? Are they trying to actually help me with this? Is this going to help me in the long run? So thank you so much, Amanda, for joining us today and helping us analyze this book a little bit further. If people want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to connect?
The easiest way to find me across most of the socials and on my website is just look for either Amanda Butterfly Room or look for the Butterfly Room Paisley, and they will find me.
Fantastic. Thank you again. And thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you tune in next week.